Welcome, dear listeners, to History with Herodotus, where we embark on a journey through the annals of time, uncovering the hidden treasures of our collective past. Today, we find ourselves on the shores of the Korean Peninsula, where the winds of war once swept across the land, leaving an indelible mark on the course of modern history. The Korean War, a conflict that would test the mettle of nations and the resolve of humanity, has its roots in a complex tapestry of events, woven from threads of politics, ideology, and geography. As we delve into the origins of this pivotal conflict, let us transport ourselves to the year 1945, when the world was still reeling from the aftermath of World War II. The Japanese Empire, which had once stretched its dominion over much of East Asia, lay defeated, its colonial grip on Korea finally broken. On August 15, 1945, Japan's surrender marked the beginning of a new era for the Korean people, who had endured decades of oppression and exploitation under Japanese rule. The 38th parallel, a line that would become synonymous with division and strife, was drawn across the peninsula, dividing it into two zones, the Soviet-controlled North and the American-controlled South. In the aftermath of Japan's surrender, the United States and the Soviet Union, two superpowers with competing ideologies, began to exert their influence over the Korean peninsula. The Soviet Union, under the leadership of Joseph Stalin, sought to establish a communist government in North Korea, while the United States, led by President Harry Truman, aimed to promote democracy and contain the spread of communism. This ideological divide would ultimately contribute to the outbreak of war on the Korean peninsula. In 1948, separate governments were established in North and South Korea, with Kim Il-sung leading the Democratic People's Republic of Korea in the north and Syngman Rhee heading the Republic of Korea in the south. The division between the two Koreas was further solidified by the establishment of a demilitarized zone along the 38th parallel, which would become one of the most heavily militarized borders in the world. As tensions escalated between North and South Korea, both sides engaged in a series of skirmishes and provocations along the 38th parallel. In 1949, the Soviet Union withdrew its troops from North Korea, but not before establishing a robust military infrastructure and training a formidable North Korean army. Meanwhile, in South Korea, the United States maintained a significant military presence, with the U.S. Army's XX-4D Corps stationed in the country. The North Korean Army, backed by China and the Soviet Union, began to mass troops along the 38th parallel, while the South, supported by the United States, prepared to defend its sovereignty. On June 25, 1950, the North Korean Army crossed the 38th parallel, launching a surprise attack on South Korea, which marked the beginning of the Korean War. The complex interplay of politics, ideology, and geography has created a volatile landscape where the fate of the Korean people hangs in the balance. In June 1950, the North Korean Army, backed by China and the Soviet Union, crossed the 38th parallel, launching a surprise attack on South Korea. The United Nations, led by the United States, quickly sprang into action, with President Harry Truman committing American troops to the defense of South Korea. The U.S. Air Force and Navy played a crucial role in the early stages of the war, providing close air support and naval gunfire to stem the tide of the North Korean advance. As the war unfolded, the United Nations Command, led by General Douglas MacArthur, began to push back against the North Korean Army. In September 1950, MacArthur launched a daring amphibious assault at Incheon, which caught the North Koreans off guard and allowed the UN forces to retake Seoul, the capital of South Korea. One of the most pivotal battles of the war took place at Chosin Reservoir, where a combined force of U.S. Marines and soldiers from the U.S. Army's 7th Infantry Division found themselves surrounded by a massive Chinese army. Despite being outnumbered, the UN forces fought bravely, using their superior firepower and tactics to hold off the Chinese advance. The battle was a testament to the bravery and sacrifice of the soldiers who fought in the Korean War, and it marked a significant shift in the balance of power on the peninsula. As the war continued, the United Nations Command began to push deep into North Korea, with the goal of reunifying the peninsula under a single government. However, the Chinese army, led by General Peng De-Huai, launched a series of counterattacks that pushed the UN forces back. The war became a stalemate, with both sides dug in along the 38th parallel. The Korean War was not just a military conflict, it was also a humanitarian crisis. Millions of civilians were displaced, and thousands were killed or injured in the fighting. The war also had a profound impact on the global economy, as it led to a significant increase in military spending and a rise in tensions between the United States and the Soviet Union. It was a war that involved multiple nations, ideologies, and interests, and it had far-reaching consequences for the world. The bravery and sacrifice of the soldiers who fought in the war will always be remembered, and their legacy continues to shape our understanding of the importance of diplomacy, cooperation, and peace. In the years following the armistice, South Korea experienced rapid economic growth, driven by significant investment from the United States and other Western nations. The country's GDP grew from $1 billion in 1953 to over $20 billion by the end of the 1960s as it transformed into one of the world's leading economies. Meanwhile, North Korea, under the leadership of Kim Il-sung, became increasingly isolated, relying heavily on Soviet and Chinese aid to maintain its economy. The Korean War also had a profound impact on the global balance of power. The conflict marked a significant escalation of the Cold War, as the United States and the Soviet Union engaged in a proxy war on the Korean Peninsula. The war demonstrated the limitations of conventional military power in the face of nuclear deterrence, as both sides avoided direct confrontation to prevent a wider conflict. In the aftermath of the war, the United Nations played a crucial role in maintaining peace and stability on the peninsula. The UN Command, led by General Mark Clark, oversaw the implementation of the Armistice Agreement, while the UN Commission for the Unification and Rehabilitation of Korea worked to promote economic development and reunification efforts. However, despite these efforts, the division between North and South Korea remained a contentious issue. In 1972, the two Koreas signed the Joint Declaration of North and South, which called for peaceful reunification, but progress was slow, and tensions continued to simmer. The 1980s saw a series of high-profile incidents, including the bombing of Korean Airlines Flight 858 by North Korean agents, which killed all 15 people on board. Today, the legacy of the Korean War continues to shape our world. The conflict marked a significant turning point in the Cold War, as it highlighted the dangers of proxy wars and the importance of diplomatic engagement. The war also demonstrated the need for international cooperation and collective security, as embodied by the United Nations. As historian Bruce Cummings has noted, the Korean War was a war that did not end, but rather continued in a state of suspended animation, with periodic outbreaks of violence and tension. This observation remains relevant today, as tensions between North and South Korea continue to pose a significant challenge to regional stability. The ongoing development of North Korea's nuclear program, coupled with its provocative behavior, has raised concerns about the potential for conflict on the peninsula. In conclusion, the decline and aftermath of the Korean War have left an indelible mark on modern history. As we look back on this pivotal conflict, we are reminded of the importance of diplomacy, cooperation, and collective security in maintaining peace and stability in our world. The legacy of the Korean War serves as a powerful reminder of the need for ongoing engagement and commitment to promoting peace and understanding between nations. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the Korean War, and I hope that our exploration of this complex and fascinating topic has provided valuable insights into one of the most significant conflicts of the 20th century. That's all for today's History with Herodotus. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, remember that to understand the present, we must first understand the past.